So this is the most exciting day as an author. I get to announce that my book is now available. So if you've been following along, I wrote a witchcraft book and now you can buy it. If you haven't been following along, my witchcraft book is The Death Journey, a witch's practical guide to death. And so you'd think I'd know my own title, but it kind of went back and forth on how I wanted to word it. So this is the book that I have wanted for so many years. I've tried to write it a few times, and I think this iteration is the best. So this book is truly, like, it feels weird to promote this particular book, but I also feel like it is, like, there isn't anything out there like it. So unlike a lot of the books that you will find in witchcraft on death, this is not a death doula book. This is not being a death priestess. This is not about some abstract thing like The Mighty Dead from Christopher Penczak. This is a very practical guide to handling death as a witch. And handling death as a witch does suck, to be honest. It's a lot. And there isn't a lot out there for witches. Outside of, like, if you Google it, you'll find some, like, usually very Wiccan, like, funerals, and that's about it. Like, you might find something for Samhain and just honoring your ancestors in general, and then again a little bit for being a death doula, but other than that there's not a whole lot. And even on, like, a mundane side, there's not a lot of books, like, guiding you through, like, the death process. And so that is what this book tries to do. So this book walks you through all of the steps realistically. I mean, you're gonna have some different stuff pop up for each situation, but in general, this is how a traditional, like, funeral is gonna take place, how you're gonna handle death here in the United States. I think it's gonna be pretty similar for, like, Canada. I think y'all are gonna be pretty close. And then possibly some parts of Europe, but also don't know, don't live there. So just keep that in mind. Like, this is how Americans handle death. And it even varies state to state. I mean, we've all heard of, like, the New Orleans funerals where, like, you have a big send-off versus here that we have funeral potatoes at the church afterwards. Like, it's very different where you live, but this kind of tries to walk you through the basic steps as you go through that journey, because it is a journey. It is a whole process that you're going through. And so I've tried to use magical stuff and mundane stuff as you go. And also, I put my death curiosity into the book to answer some questions, because I've researched this, like, kind of forever. Death has been one of those, like, strange topics that I've just always been fascinated by, and, like, how we handle death here. Like, it's just been something that's, like, I have binged all of Ask a Mortician's channel. Like, it's not normal content the average person is watching, but it is really interesting, and it did help to know that there are options and, like, to really kind of, like, open that dialogue a bit, because not a lot of people know that you have more than just burial and cremation as options. And, like, there's stuff to do when the person's dying, and there's, like, witchy options of whether you do it in the hotel, good lord, don't be dying in a hotel room, dying in a hospital room. I mean, it happens at hotels, I'm sure, but in a hospital room versus at home. Like, and, like, if you want to just do something at your house, because sometimes when you get the news that somebody's dying, it's not immediate. It takes time. Sometimes it's a few hours, few days, even weeks. Like, that stage of, like, the dying process can take some time. Ask any of, like, the people who have worked medical, like, the hospice nurses, people just in general working in hospital, like, settings, like nurses and doctors. It can take some time. And so I have a ritual that you can do during that, whether it's at home or, again, by their bedside, whichever. And then, of course, the death options like aquamation and terramation, which aren't often discussed. So, like, and putting a witchy side to it as well, because really the four elements there's options of what you want to do with your body, connected to each one depending on what you want to have done. And also what is legal in your state, because, like, here, aquamation is legalized, terramation is not. Which is a bummer, because honestly, like, if we had the option, would I want that? Because it's a little, like, I don't know that I would hate it. Because it's so fascinating. If you don't know what terramation is, it's human composting. You get put in a box with, like, organic materials that are very specifically, like, controlled, and like they've tested this so that you are nothing but dirt when you get handed back to your family in several bags. And I mean several. Like you get the whole container of dirt. So they could go make a really big garden with you. Like, I love the idea of that, but also, like, it's crazy how hot inside the dirt gets, because, like, by the time you get handed back, your bones are dissolved into the soil, and it gets hot in there, apparently. Who knew? Like, I heard that it, like, gets up to a couple hundred degrees just as the processes are happening. Like, it's fascinating. So anyways, have stuff like that in there. But yeah, so like it walks you through the whole thing. Obviously it's got funeral stuff and then like some practical stuff. Like if you want to help to like prepare the body, like there's some stuff you're gonna need to be prepared for, because how we view death in like, especially here in the US, it is not as pretty as it's presented. Like even when you see dead bodies at like viewings, they've been prepared. Whether a lot or little bit, there's preparations behind the scenes that are happening to make it appear very gentle and not as icky as it actually is, because decomposition and stuff happened real fast. Throughout the book though, there is a lot of other stuff. There is stuff for grieving, and also like if you couldn't attend, there was no funeral, how to process it on your own. And then of course rituals afterwards, because it doesn't just end at the funeral. It doesn't just end when you get the ashes back. That process still continues. So there is like the first death, the first Samhain, the death anniversary. Like there's a lot. Like when you get the headstone back, like as a witch, you might want to go and bless it now that it's there. And also like contemplating your own mortality, because like death naturally kind of brings that up. And no death book would be complete without mentioning pet deaths. There's a chapter there on that as well. And then there is just a little bit extra like death deities. And honestly, like a lot of the research I had to do for this book, there's not a lot of discussion on certain things. Like I've noticed, and I've kept paying attention as I was writing this, no witchcraft book talks about the death aspect of herbs and plants and crystals. It is so very rarely discussed. And if it is, it's usually like for the ancestors, for Samhain, which is great. But when you're needing it for like a death, it's not there. So I've got all of those correspondences in this book as well. Like there's a lot in this book, and I hope it's going to be helpful for a lot of people. Again, I could not find a book that covered these topics, and so as the saying goes, if you want to read a book and it doesn't exist, you write the book. So I have done that. It is now available in ebook, which hopefully the formatting works. I have tried. It is a struggle and a half because I don't know anything about ebooks. I don't do ebooks. So I hope that it doesn't jack up the formatting depending on what like device you're on, what your font size is set at. If it's a mess, I'm sorry, I tried. Then we have the paperback edition, and the hardback edition is hopefully out by now. I had to fix it because even though they approved the cover, they approved the proof copy, they then decided that my spacing on the spine was a problem, so I have to go and change it. So I did hit submit again, so it takes a day or two before it actually goes live at that point. But it should be available by the time you're seeing this. I'm recording this on the 2nd, so theoretically by now it'll be available, so you can buy whatever edition you want. Personally, I do actually kind of favor the hardback because I know that this is a book in my own life that I'm going to be beating up quite a bit when the time comes. There's quite a few of the rituals that like I'm going to have like dog-eared and like whatnot for my own life, even though I wrote it myself. But you can't remember every single thing you've written, and so it'll be nice to just be able to flip to an actual book and have it there, and to be able to walk through my own journey when the next death occurs, hopefully not for a while, but like to have a book available that talks about it, because again, I haven't had this book and I've needed it multiple times over the past like decade, because I've had a lot of people die in the past 10 years. Like a lot. It's crazy to think that in 2014 to now almost 2024, it's so many people gone from my life. It's been a not great decade, to say the least. At least on that front. So anyways, I really hope that you will consider buying my book and supporting a small author, and hopefully you can share it around, let people know that it exists, because again, I really want this to be a resource to help as many people as possible. And if you want the audiobook, it is going to be posting here on the channel the first 3 chapters. After that, it'll be posting weekly every Thursday on my Patreon until like the end of February. Like it's like 31 chapters that are going to be going up every single week. So it's going to be going for quite some time. So anyways, I do also need to mention, I initially had announced that I was going to post it through Barnes & Noble Press as well. I'm not. Because I don't know how to make a cover. So like the cover you see is using their software through KDP, Amazon. And the Barnes & Noble does not do that. They just leave you to your own devices and you just upload a PDF. I don't know editing software. I do not know how to make the sizing and things where it needs to be for things. Like, I don't know that. So until I can like take a course, there's one that I want to take that I'm waiting for it to become live. It's from Mandy Lynn Bell, I think is her new author name. And she is doing a book cover design course. And so once that goes live, I might try it. But for now, it is only available on Amazon. One day, there will be a Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, probably, because the cover will not match at all, to say the least. But when that day comes, I will let you know. Their hardbacks are honestly my preferred method because it's the dust jacket. This is the Amazon one's just printed onto like cardboard or whatever it's made out of. It feels like cardboard, like sturdy cardboard. But yeah, Barnes & Noble, they give you the little dust jacket so you feel like legit. And also apparently they do not print the border wraparound thing of death on your book when you order your proof copies, so you can actually mark it with it as you're like doing the final bits to it, which is like, and you can pre-order with them. I assume you have to have your files done by that point, but wouldn't it be so lovely to be able to have a pre-order? It'd be magic. So anyways, that's something I will tackle in the future. For now, please consider buying my book. It is available, always linked down below on my blog. That way you have easy access to the links. Until next time, thank you so much for my patrons for supporting me through this. And if you want to support me, you can find the link in the description as well. Because I do post there pretty frequently, so if you want extra content from me, it's over there. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.